Generally speaking, people feel that there is a great sense of a lack of creativity in our school systems. What do we do about it?
Well, I think the school systems are a reflection of a feeling of a lack of creativity in individuals. And a great deal of understanding creativity is beginning to understand that creativity is where we are vulnerable, where we ask questions that don't really have an answer. And so many of the problems stem from a sense that we don't feel safe. It's hard to give yourself to exploring new ideas and seeing where the paintbrush takes you, so to speak, if you're concerned about your safety. And so the first question in the creative act is the ritual of creating safe space. Almost like you'd say actors showing up at rehearsal say, we have to make a bond amongst ourselves that the rehearsal will stay private. This will not be what we share with others. We'll make mistakes. We'll screw it up. We'll go places we weren't supposed to, but that will help us to find our sense of where the play should be, where we should be in the play. And I feel like that's why creativity can't be given in an institutional sense, because, to quote Nietzsche, we grovel before sheer fact. So we can't factually insist upon creativity. But what we can do is begin to understand, and I think I see some of this, whether it's things like mindfulness in school, where people are being given an opportunity to spend time within themselves. Because one of the problems also with so much media and so much distraction is there's a type of anxiety of really having quiet, having silence, because that friction creates a sense of, let me say, adrenaline, a sense of place. It's an anxiety, but it's a sense of, I'm here. So when you quiet that down, it's like, well, what do I do now? And this is where the creative spirit waits for us, because it is essentially telling us that we're always in motion, we're always looking for it, rather than creating the possibility or the space for it to occur. Because creativity isn't something we're not. We are creation. We're woven of creation. Everything we do, like I have a granddaughter who's just turning 1 year old, and everything for her is discovery. We begin to see that as human beings, we grow, we begin to walk, we're fascinated with everything. We live in a highly creative state because we're curious, and we're interacting with everything. And then as we get a little bit older, we become self-critical, and we feel that if we do this, and oftentimes we are shut down. We're told not to do that, or you're not going to be accepted, or you'll be rejected. And that's not just externally. We start to carry that code in ourselves. I'm going to be rejected. So I'm going to reject that part of myself and say, you know what, unless you can use your creativity, kid, and make money from it, I'm not interested. Unless you know your audience, I'm not interested. So we have this inner critic that is so, in a way, an accountant of the imagination, that wants to bottom line and do the sort of adding and subtracting before saying, no, it's not about that. It's about trusting an instrument, building an instrument. And that's what my home reflects, really, is that over the years, my art is not 1 year or one piece or one story, but becomes cumulatively a residence where these questions that were given a place could actually blossom into a garden of creative expression, because this is what creativity seeks. It says, you must study the instrument like the piano. You must know the notes or the keys, and this is what you'll learn in the black and white world. But you must realize that it is not about the notes or the piano. That's the instrument. That helps us navigate. It's about how do we play? How do we begin to put the notes together to hear chords, and in that begin to free ourselves from a black and white world that's going from one note to the next. Why aren't I creative? It's not that you're not creative. It's the relationship you are holding within yourself that doesn't trust the instrument. And so my key is close the door. Find a place where you can be alone. Begin to ask questions about creativity that aren't going to be judged out this way, but actually held this way, and allowed to grow, a bit like a performance, as it's rehearsed and in private studied, until finally it's ready to be shared. Because we want to be creative, but we have to remember every act, every thought creates who we think we are. So we have to be the one that adds the sense of, I will add, place, a sense of safety, a sense of, I like how this makes me feel. This is not for my neighbor, but for me. This is not to convince others, but to have a relationship with the creative spirit then we begin to develop the etiquette and the inner manners that's not about having something we're not, but creating the space for something we've always been, but needed the right questions and the right permission to allow it to become us. In a sense, the flower finally